Hello, I'm Gillian Youngs from the University of Brighton and I'm the Professor of Digital Economy, and in this short presentation I wanted to talk a little bit about the Internet of Place and new paths to innovation. The way that I tend to think about this at the moment is in terms of what I call the data-rich experiential economy. So I'm going to talk a bit about place at the end, but I'll come back to that, as it were, through a little bit of a journey through the data-rich and experiential and the ways I think we need to think about it. Most of us are, at least to some degree, familiar with the Internet of Things and the big data shifts that are happening in digital economy. And really the idea of the data-rich place is all about the fusion of those two things, really. So big data is very much about how data is becoming available because of digital economy in all sorts of different ways within organisations and within societies and the marketplace. And what we want to look at is how we can generate new kinds of value from that. And the idea of the data rich, in the terms that I think about it, is the wealth of opportunities to generate value. So I think that's quite a shift in our thinking about innovation, and I see that area as one that we need to mine in terms of the new paths to innovation. So we need to think a lot about what data is, how it can be used, who it's applicable to, and the different kinds of value that can be generated from it. Now, what's different really about the data-rich environment is very much something that describes what the digital economy is. So that's a big shift from what we used to call the industrial economy. And the industrial economy, of course, continues to expand. And that's about the really familiar world of factories and offices and products, and the motor car as a mass consumption object, and all sorts of other goods and services. And we're at a stage of the digital economy, in my view, where to some extent digital developments have been overlaid on that industrial economy. So if you think about models like Amazon, for instance, which is one of the real successful models and one of the earliest ones in digital economy, what we're talking about is good old-fashioned books, good old-fashioned records, and now lots of other things that Amazon sells. But it's actually used the digital environment to produce an adapted business model, which is actually still dealing in those goods and services, but uses the network and the virtual environments, the 24/7 environment of the internet, to actually do that much more flexibly, much more quickly. And those of you who've used Amazon over the years, and I've certainly got lots of friends who have, will know that it's allowed an intensified form of consumption. So rather than carrying a few books home from the bookshop, many friends of mine order many, many more books than they used to, and other forms of entertainment via Amazon. So that's a whole interesting area. And part of how we can think about the shifts in digital economy is to recognise what's already happened and think about what that is. But as I said, I think we're at the moment, we have a model of a bit of a digital plug-in to the industrial model. And what the data-rich environment is, and this is very relevant to our understanding of place, is a transformation of that industrial economy, really, into one where the digital economy is really integrated much more deeply with it. And the whole concept of the Internet of Place is really valuable in that context, and I'll explain why. Really, when we think about the industrial economy, as I say, we think about physical places. So we think about the home, the shopping mall, the office, the factory, the incubator space, all that kind of thing. But in the digital economy, we need to have a sense of place that is actually data rich. So the idea of place becomes something that's as much about the things we can't see as the things we can. So it's as much about virtual networks as it is about the actual physical things themselves. And we need to develop a sense of place and a sense of how we generate value from place as the integration of those things. And that's where the experiential comes in, and the reason that I think the experiential is a really good concept for actually helping us move towards these new forms of value, new business models that really recognise that. And the experiential is really about what happens to us and how we enjoy and engage in a place where we are. As I say, whether that's the home or a particular shop or a park, or any kind of environment we're in, whether it's for leisure or work or just really for fun and play. And that, I think, thinking about experience in a really granular way is something that will help us to think about the kind of exciting new business models that we can generate. And in terms of the virtual networks, the things that we sort of can't physically see in those environments, there's real potential now with the way that the network technology is increasing in its sophistication and capacities to actually navigate the real richness of that data and its meaning for different people. So there's a lot of real-time potential. If you think about the retail experience, if we're thinking about the physical experience, not so much the online experience, which we're all familiar with now, but if we think about when we're actually experiencing retail within a particular location, there's lots of opportunities to deliver real-time data to people, for people actually within that context even to share retail real-time information about their own experience, maybe a dress they've spotted that they like, or a particular object that they think they'd like to highlight to people, tell them where it is in the shop, or even to talk about something being, they'd love it, but it's actually a bit expensive or whatever. And that can be done anonymously, it can actually be displayed on the screen. There can be all sorts of ways in which that can be done. And of course there are lots of opportunities for community building, and for building communities in a pop-up sense. So not communities, we tend to think about communities as very long-term and things that are established, and of course that's really important, and we can use the data-rich environment to enrich those as well. But we can also think about pop-up communities that just happen when we actually visit a particular place at a particular time, and we might offer ways of actually extending that, but that's really about the experiential. So I think the idea of the data-rich combined with the experiential are really a powerful mix of getting us to think about the way that things are shifting and the way that value is shifting and the potential to generate new value is shifting. So if I come back just at the end to this whole idea of the Internet of Place, I think it's a really powerful concept that has really been chosen for this Catapult here in Brighton. And one of the reasons I think that's true is because of one of my own areas of interest and one of the many we have at the University of Brighton in terms of our expertise. Because one of the things that the Brighton Fuse project, which looked at the creative and digital sector, did was to identify the extent to which creative arts and design are real drivers in the digital economy and are things that can accelerate innovation in the digital economy. And I think in terms of the new imaginaries we need for the Internet of Place, the whole wealth of skills in creative arts and design are real assets in helping us to stretch how we think about what the economy is and how we think about what experience in the economy is. So I see the Internet of Place Catapult as really extending for the wider economy as a whole in the UK, our real sense of what is possible with the next stages of the digital economy, and I'm really looking forward, and I know a lot of my colleagues are in the university, to being part of that story. Thank you.